It's the Tim Anderson Podcast. I'm Tim. That is my buddy Ryan over there in the first little box in my Google Meet. Hello, Rhino.
Hello.
And heading to the Royal Rumble to be the surprise 30th entrant tomorrow night, Zach Neighbor. Zach, hello.
How you doing?
Living the dream, I got to tell you, for 2+ years, or coming up on 2 years, I have dodged this little bug that's been with us, and it finally got me this week. So welcome to the special Omicron edition of the podcast.
It feels like everyone's getting it at work now.
Yep.
So it's probably you were just due for it.
I was due. It was in my hallway. It was a matter of time. I knew it.
Yeah, I just don't want to have it when we go on vacation here. Or just going to the Rumble, I don't want to get it.
Well, you might get it at the Rumble. Might just be a fun little event for you. Everybody's packed into that dome in St. Louis. That should be fun.
We do technically have to mask, I think, at it, but I did. You joke about me entering the Rumble. When I was younger, I had like a reoccurring dream that I was in the Royal Rumble, and every time, like the dream, like same dream, I always got tossed by the $1 Million Man.
Well, that's an outrage. What are you doing getting tossed by the $1 Million Man for? I'd like to think there's only a handful of guys you could have thrown out back in the day, and he might have been one of them.
Yeah, but nope, he always had my number.
Rhino, I could see you entering the Royal Rumble one day. I think that could be a dream for you.
Yeah, I'd be the first or second guy in, and definitely the first guy out, because I'd be the guy that's just standing there on the side, just waiting to get tossed.
You'd be like, I just want to come out first so I can get the big theme music, get the big pop, and then get thrown out by.
I don't even get entrance music. Like, I'm just standing in the ring when the thing starts. Like
he would have been the DiBiase of the Flair Rumble.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm the guy that nobody knows his name. I do all the house shows. I take all the stupid big bumps.
He's the Iron Mike Sharp. Did Iron Mike Sharp ever get into a Royal Rumble? I don't think he did. So I don't. You're trying to put a job. No, Gilberg. He's Dwayne Gilberg entering the Rumble, getting out there quickly. Or Bushwhacker Luke, circa 1991. Ryan, go ahead and Google that. So that you can watch
I'm whichever one that the superstar is going to come out there, and they're not even going to pay attention to me because I'm gone long before they get into the ring. Like I'm getting thrown out as soon as Hogan's coming out.
Yeah.
At like 16 or 17, like I'm just gone. I'm thrown out. You're
the warlord. I tell you what, you got to Google Bushwhacker Luke 1991 Rumble. He literally doesn't break his bushwhacker stride, and he's out in 4 seconds thanks to the earthquake. It's the best ever. Oh, the best ever. All right, gentlemen. It's so nice to see faces. Oh my goodness, this is great. The wife is, we're trying to keep away from the wife, so I'm downstairs in the pod studio, and ready to talk some football for a little while. Have a nice little diversion here before Zach heads to the Rumble and Ryan heads to the weekend. No speech tournament this weekend, so that's great. It's great. Got to sit at home on the one off weekend we get until March, but that's awesome. I'm sure Ryan's got big plans, guys.
Nope.
No. Wow. Whoa. We'll have to hear about that later. Maybe there's a lot of hyperbole out there, but this might be the greatest weekend. This past weekend, the divisional round playoffs might have been the greatest weekend in playoff history. I mean, how good was that weekend of football? Ryan, I'll start with you.
I mean, it was great. It lived up to every expectation that we had, I feel like. We kind of thought that, I kind of thought that Tampa game was the one that I thought could go either way, but either way might have been a blowout, and it didn't turn out to be that at all. All these games were close games, and that's kind of what you want in the playoffs, right? There's going to be some people that come on this podcast and say things like, this is why you shouldn't expand the playoffs. But, I don't care. More football is always good for me. I was happy to watch it, and that, just to touch briefly, I know we're going to talk a lot about it in this podcast, but God, that Saints game was good. The Chiefs game was good.
Yeah,
that was about as good a football as I've watched in a long time. It was a lot of fun.
Spoken like an offensive coach.
Yeah, the defensive coach and Zach probably had a coronary watching Leslie Frazier's defense in the last handful of minutes of that football game. But I definitely think it was one of those memorable, probably definitely the game of the year. Those two games between the Bills and the Chiefs might be the two best games of the year this year, Zach. What were your thoughts this weekend?
Miserable weekend of football. Terrible.
Too much scoring?
No, well, first of all, I went like 1-3 in our predictions.
Yeah, well, we didn't do well. I mean, it's all right.
Really, I have no clue what's going on. It was frustrating as a Packer fan. But, I mean, it's kind of been par for the course over the couple years here. So finding new ways to lose games in the playoffs.
Welcome to us. Welcome to our fandom, Zach. I know you got a couple of rings to hang your hat on, but now you know what it's like to have expectations and never meet them. It's kind of fun. It's a good thing over here. We're used to it.
Indeed.
Now, is A-Raj coming back, do you think? Is he going to be back in Green Bay next year?
Yeah, let's just get to this. I was going to put the Packers thing off till the end, but let's talk that game first. Let's just go through that game, Zach. Let's let you have it. Talk A-Raj, talk the Niners, and then we'll kind of do this. Ryan, good job by you. That's good on-air production work.
I think we talked about this a little bit after the game, but the two things that I think didn't get enough play with this meltdown, they did not. Right, I mean, they were going down to score again in the second drive, and then Mercedes Lewis fumbles, and he's been, the reliable guy for them for years, right?
Yep.
I joked about it all the time, right? He catches 2 passes a game and runs through someone's face, and when he fumbled, that really changed things because it really felt like they were going to go score again. And then, maybe that's out of reach. So that was one big play that I think just didn't get talked about enough. And then, they really forced the ball to Adams twice in a row on that final drive where they talked about, backup corner in. And they just got out of what they do. And I know they weren't having a ton of success, but outside of that, but I just felt like, there was a lot of talk and screenshots of the last one where he threw it up into double coverage. But even the play before that, like he decided where he was going and he threw it there right away. And there was not a lot of flow. So it's kind of, I think those were two big moments that are maybe underplayed a little bit.
Yeah, and I also think, Ryan, that, this is something we had talked about all year. I know Zach and all of us had mentioned it on the pod before, but special teams played a role here, and it had all season. And we were wondering, we thought maybe it'd be a Mason Crosby kick or something like that, but the special teams really did cost the Packers a game here, or pretty close, right? We thought it would come up, maybe, possibly, and it did at the worst time.
And it was a Mason Crosby kick too, because he had the field goal block too, and that wasn't on him. That the left wing doesn't touch anyone.
Yeah.
How do you solve these kinds of special teams issues? Is this a personnel issue? Is this a depth issue where you don't have guys that fill out the back end of your roster that are good enough on special teams?
I think it's a little bit of execution by those guys, and a little bit of it's got to be scheme. They had problems on field goal all year long, right? They had problems with the snapper. They changed the snapper. The blocking wasn't great. And then, but I think if you had talked about if you had said what special team will melt down for the Packers, you would have said field goal or punt return. I don't think you would have said punt.
Yeah, the punt is really what that killed him.
That punt kills him too, right? Yeah. But again, I look at it too, you have to score before the half, right? You get that busted play, and then, first of all, I think Aaron Jones needs a score.
Yeah.
He kind of half cuts back into the field, and then also forces him to take a timeout. Where if he just keeps running the sideline, it's either going to be score or he gets knocked out of bounds, and you still have your timeout.
Right.
And then they could have run another play, right? Because they just ran one more play, took a sack, and then kicked the field goal. So I think that was a big moment too, and and the reality is it just becomes frustrating because they still did enough to win until they screw up on the punt block.
Yeah, and
when they made a fourth down stop with 4 minutes to go or 5 minutes to go, right before that, you thought, all right, that was the game, right? Like, they're going to run this down here, and even if they punt it back, I mean, San Francisco didn't do anything all game offensively.
No, they did not. That's just that they won a game with a pretty pedestrian offensive performance.
Yeah, and I was literally thinking, watching, I'm like, well, this is the end of Jimmy G here, and it's like, well, nope, now he's got another week.
Yeah, and that was the interesting thing with this week, right? Was that Jimmy G? I feel like I've seen a lot of people singing his praises. He had a good game, but it's not like he lit the world on fire.
No, not at all. In fact, no, he made a couple of throws when he needed to, but every time he passes the ball, I can't imagine Niners fans don't just have heart attacks. Like, there's not just like a handful of people in the hospital every Sunday with a coronary issue every time Garoppolo steps back and throws.
Yeah, he threw a few balls up for grabs that Green Bay didn't come away with, but they were dangerous.
I feel like that's been his story all year, where they'll do well in a game. Maybe they're running the ball well. Maybe the defense gets a couple scores. This time it was special teams, but it feels like you're kind of hoping that Jimmy G doesn't give the game away. That you're putting it in his hands, and it's just kind of, you hold your breath and say, all right, we got to throw this down. Like, it's 3rd and 7. We got to throw. We got to hope that Jimmy G doesn't have this meltdown right now. Like, it can't happen.
And he just continued to, and again, it's the Debo trick too. Debo came out and made a couple plays. I mean, they kind of held him in check. They did a pretty good job defensively. I thought Green Bay defensively played a pretty good game, but they got just enough. They make just enough plays. Their defense is pretty stout. DeMeco Ryans had a great scheme, it looked like. Soon to be Minnesota Vikings head coach DeMeco Ryans, at least according to Ryan.
Green Bay played a hell of a game defensively because they only gave up 3 points.
Yeah, they played a great game. I mean, it was kind of the opposite of the Kansas City Buffalo game. You get this defensive performance that I thought was really good. It was really entertaining. The one thing we can put to bed here, Ryan, don't you think, is the weather, the Lambeau, the mystique, the home field advantage. That seems to be out the window in the modern NFL, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, not at all. Look, the Green Bay lost this game, and they've lost a few playoff home games, but it doesn't make it go away. It's still cold. They still have to go play in there. And look, that the home field advantage is always going to be against the opposing offense. And it worked there, right? San Francisco couldn't move the ball other than a couple of plays with Deebo Samuel. The Green Bay defense held them in check, and this game was won defensively on mistakes that Green Bay made that were not attributed to anything with the field. It was just mistakes. They just messed up. And sometimes you're going to lose games that way. And most times in the NFL, that's how you're going to lose games. Is guys just make a mistake. So I disagree. I don't think it's gone. I don't think it'll ever be gone, because if you have to go play at Lambeau Field in the snow, it's going to affect you. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. The fans are going to be loud because they're drunk and it's fun. The energy doesn't go away, especially at a playoff game. I mean, it's a religion there. So I disagree. I think it doesn't rule anything out for me at all on that.
And in fairness, when we were at the game, Ryan, I think the drunkest fans were the Vikings fans.
Well, can you blame them?
Yeah, but I'm serious, right? Like, you even mentioned it, right? Like, the obnoxious guy above us was a Vikings fan.
Yeah,
that's true.
And the random Bears fans that were at a Packers Vikings game absolutely blitzed out of their minds.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, we touched on the Rodgers stuff. I think it's gonna be really interesting here with the addition of Hackett in Denver, right? That's the rumor, right? He's gonna go to Denver. He
signed today.
Is that a done deal?
No, but I'm saying the rumor is that
Rodgers
is gonna go to Denver and he's gonna take Adams with him.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna stay. I really do. I think he's gonna look at it and go, you know what? I'm not gonna go play in that division. I'm not gonna go play in the AFC with all those guys. It just doesn't seem like a good idea. And I think that he'll stay. I mean, if he stays in Green Bay, they're the favorites to win the division again, right, even if they have to retool.
Right.
Right. Tom's not in there anymore.
Yeah, we pretty much think Tom's going to retire, right? I think we all can. We'll get to that in a minute. But
I told you guys today, right? Let's start the rumor. Jordan loved Denver. Right? It'd be cheaper for Denver. They don't have to give up as much.
They've already done this dance. They've done this with Ted and Brock Osweiler and Jordan Love. What they want is a bona fide. They looked at like, hey, when we had Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl, we'll go pay for the old guy and go win it right now.
But Hackett has the relationship with Love, right? He's had him for a couple of years. He knows the system. I don't know. I think that if they're holding out hope for Aaron Rodgers, like I still think he's more likely to stay than to go there.
I think that if you're a Denver fan, Rodgers would be nice, but he's expensive. I think that the best answer for Denver is probably Russell Wilson.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I've seen that mentioned too. The interesting thing with the Rodgers piece, and I brought it up today, it's like I think both sides have a unrealistic view of what he's worth.
Right.
Right? Like I see Denver fans talking like, oh, we'll give up pick 9 for him. Well, it's going to take more than pick 9 to get Aaron Rodgers. But then I see Packers fans like, oh, 3 firsts and 3 seconds. Like, that's not happening either.
No.
Not even anything close to that.
He's 36.
Right. And so I think both, obviously the fan bases are not going to make the trade. It's the GMs, but I think both sides have an unrealistic view right now of what.
But if you're Denver and it costs you 2 number ones and a third or something, wouldn't you do that?
I think so. I think part of it too is you have to be able to have the conversation with them to say like, what, how long are you going to do this for?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to do it for a year, 2 years? Like, what can we count on? And how do we restructure that contract then too, right? Because that needs to be done.
It's very fair. I agree. And that's going to be but for the second year in a row, Ryan, like Aaron Rodgers is a story in Green Bay in the offseason, and here comes the Brett Favre drama, but in a different way with Rodgers. 2 years in a row now.
Well, I think that it's look, I am not going to sit here and fall on a grenade for Aaron Rodgers. I think some of the drama is kind of his own making this year. And part of that, and part of that might be intentional. He might just think it's funny. It's funny to troll people, and he's kind of at a point in his career where it doesn't matter, and he can do that. But at the same time, I mean, can we really call it a distraction? They went 13-4, or what was it, like 14-3, and they were the number 1 seed in the NFC, and they lost. It didn't go their way, but I mean, it wasn't Rodgers' fault that they lost. Because you could put some of the blame on him, but I mean, largely it was special teams. I mean, the offense did its job. The offense did score points.
The offense didn't do its job. The offense did not play good enough to win. I mean,
they didn't play great, but the defense held the other offense to 3 points. You put this loss on special teams. You have to be able to win games when your offense isn't clicking on all cylinders, and that means that your defense did its job, and your special teams just has to not become a headline, and they didn't do that. So I don't know if I can put any of this on Rodgers, and I know that's going to be really weird coming from me, a liberal Vikings fan. I'm the demographic that should hate Rodgers the most. Should be, but I don't really put a whole lot of blame on any of this for him. I think that he goes into this with free and clear and the ability to make a decision that he wants to make, and he shouldn't feel forced to make any decisions based on how the season ended.
We're going to have to watch that one again. That's going to be a fun off-season talker again with Rodgers. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm sure when we meet for the April draft live stream for the 3rd year in a row, Rodgers was the storyline at that draft last year. I have a feeling he'll be a storyline at this year's draft, and that'll be a fun time for us again. Let's move around. Let's go to the next. I guess we'll save a little bit of Chiefs Bills for the end. Let's talk about the other 2 games. Let's touch quickly on Tennessee losing. Cincinnati getting all the way to the AFC Championship game. Joe Burrow, I think, asserting himself into the conversation of like top 5, top 6 alpha male quarterbacks in the league. Really made a statement, I felt, in this game. And again, what we found out is, as good as Tennessee was this year and as good as Vrabel is as a coach, Tannehill's not in that elite company. And in the playoffs, you kind of need an elite guy, don't you, Zach?
Well, yeah, he's not the answer. They're winning. They have to protect him so much, right, to win. He threw a pick on the first play of the game. He threw a pick on his last play of the game. And the problem for them is he's owed a lot of money. And it's like his cap hits like $31 million, which isn't like a right? This is sound dumb, but like, it's not terrible in lines of quarterbacks. But if they cut him, it's like a $57 million hit.
Yeah.
And so you can't cut him. So he's going to be on the team. And that means that you're not signing another big quarterback, right? So your options are, maybe in the draft. And is that the way you want to roll too? They're in a precarious position, and it's because of that contract.
Yeah. Ryan, your thoughts when you watch that game?
Well, again, I don't know how many times I have to sit here and doubt myself on Joe Burrow and the Bengals when, you really should just believe what we're seeing with them. I mean, they're a good football team. They're not great, I don't think, but they're a really good football team, and you just can't count them out.
No,
ever. And that to me is you look at the common thread between all of the teams that seem to just kind of, will their way into championships. Sometimes it's these kinds of teams, right? The teams that are good, the teams that are always around, the teams that don't get put away, the teams that always come back. You think about the Kansas City Chiefs a couple of years ago. I mean, what were we saying about them the year that they won the title? They never go away. They're always in the game. It doesn't matter how much they're down. They're going to find a way back. They've got the weapons. That defense is just good enough. They've got some studs in that defensive line. I mean, that Cincinnati defense, they're not the best defense in the NFL. They're just not. But they've got some guys that can make some plays, and you do just enough. I mean, you hold Tennessee to 16 points. That's a really big feat on the road against Derrick Henry for a defense that hasn't been great against the run this year. So they just find a way to win, and that's what you like about them.
So I'm gonna throw some cold water on this Burrow love fest just for a moment.
Okay. I love Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's awesome.
Don't get me wrong. Like, he's been wildly entertaining. They're gonna have to finish some drives.
Yeah,
they kicked a lot of field goals last weekend.
That's true.
They need to find a way to finish those off. And he can't get sacked 9 times.
No, he cannot get sacked 9 times. That's absurd.
This is the crazy thing, too, right? Like, they kicked a lot of field goals. They should have kicked 3 more. He took sacks on 3rd down, and they were, like, big sacks, right? They were, like, 12-yard sack, take him out of field goal range. And he did it 3 times. Like, you can't do that next weekend, right? You can't have empty possessions like that when you had the opportunity to score when you're playing against the Chiefs.
Yeah, this Bengals story has been terrific. I've enjoyed it. I don't think it's going to last past this week with Kansas City. I feel like the Chiefs are going to win this game. We'll get to that preview in a little bit. But, yeah, I do think Cincinnati has found money with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. I mean, it is it's what the Browns hoped they'd get with Baker Mayfield. I think the Bengals have it in Joe Burrow. And I think Burrow's a stud. He's he has the it stuff. He has all those things that you want, those intangible pieces. And he is must-see TV. I loved watching that game. I mean, you're right, Zach. There wasn't a lot of scoring. They didn't finish enough drives, but there's something about Burrow that is, like, worth watching. He's good box office, and you want to watch when he's on. And that's why I can't wait for this game on Sunday.
I agree. He's been entertaining. It's just, like, he's gotten a lot of love, right, over the past 6 weeks.
He has.
And I think the reality is he's not quite what we think he is yet. Right? He's shown a ton of potential. He can be really good. But to get to that top level, he's got to take one more step.
Well, an upset would go a long way for that.
For sure.
Yeah.
But to do that upset, he's got to...
Yeah, you're right. 100%. He can't get sacked. No, if you get sacked more than 3 times, that game's over. Like, he's not going to... he needs to stay upright.
And organizationally, if you're watching your franchise quarterback, your young franchise quarterback coming off a knee injury, getting hit 9 times in a playoff game, you've got to kind of start to question how that offensive line's been coached and constructed a little bit too. I know that there's a lot of sacks that can get put on the quarterback, but ultimately the offensive line, it falls to them, and they're not doing their job, giving up 9 sacks in a game. You cannot give up that many sacks.
Oh, they just should have drafted Penei Sewell. Am I right? They just should have drafted. They should have just that would have solved all their problems.
Let Jamar Chase fall to somebody else.
But now they do have to address it. You're right, though, Ryan. They did kick the can a little bit by not taking Penei Sewell and taking Jamar Chase, which, again, I think is the right move. And you do it.
Yeah, they're fine. They'll that's something that they'll work to improve next year. And, they've been able to run the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I do think Burrow did hang on to it a lot or try to escape, right, instead of throw it away.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I am looking forward to that game, though. That'll be fun. Well, I think I might be catching that one, like the first half at a local establishment in St. Louis, and the second half will be at the airport.
I'm not even sure they allow football to be watched in St. Louis until they get a new franchise. But good luck on it. I hope that they.
It is Missouri, so
it is Missouri. No, it's true. Kansas City, I'm sure there'll be some fans around there. Ryan, we'll get back on the Bengals when we preview the AFC Championship game here in a minute. But let's talk Bucs Rams and just kind of talk. I think we think this is it for Tom, right? I mean, the way Tom has sounded, the way everything has sounded, the tea leaves tell you he's done. What did you think of that game? The Rams got off to a big lead. The Bucs came back late, had a chance at it. Defense completely fell apart at the end for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, let me just say, and I know Zach's a defensive guy, so he can probably shed some light on this. You're up against an offense that has weapons all across the field. You have had to kind of bracket coverage on Cooper Kupp all day. You cannot give up yards in this situation. And you go cover zero, blitz, man coverage outside, no help, and Cooper Kupp burns your safety for 55 yards. What's the thought process?
I don't mind bringing some pressure, but you don't play man cover zero behind it. Like, I can't condone that. Like, I think you can bring pressure, still play zone behind it, right? Have kind of that coverage and go, hey, if we give up something underneath, we'll go tackle it. But when they did what they did, like, you're just daring them to throw it there, right? You're daring them to beat you. And
it's not like you're daring Sam Darnold and the 2017 Jets.
Right. There's some talent there and some guys who are and like you said, I mean, there's a lot of guys to throw the ball to as well, right? It's not just Cooper Kupp, right? They have weapons all over, so you got to cover everyone,
right?
Well, and so yeah, it was kind of an interesting decision, and we can talk about some of that stuff too with the next game, I think, as well. But it goes back to me for like the whole risk reward thing.
Yeah.
Right? What's the reward if you blitz and get a sack there versus giving up the whole thing? I don't think they played that very smart.
Well, and the other point, this was a point that was made on Twitter. I don't remember who made it, but that cover zero loss is the same exact way that that defense. Who's the defensive coach? Todd Bowles, is it?
Yeah, your guy, yeah. Todd Bowles.
It was 2015. He was coaching the Jets. Overtime game against the Vikings. They give up. They go cover zero in overtime. Teddy Bridgewater throws an 87-yard touchdown to Jarius Wright. It's same coverage, same play that they called. It was the same exact thing, and they lost it twice. And this to me is disqualifying as an NFL coach. You can't call the same play in the same situation, get beat on it twice to lose in big spots, and not change anything. You can't do it, and that to me is kind of the problem that I have with a lot of the things that Tampa did this year, and they went through a lot of drama and had a lot of issues, and it worked because you've got a lot of talent, but it kind of boiled down to this game where you just tried to run it back and do kind of the same thing again this year, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Todd Bowles guy.
No, neither am I.
But although I do think it's funny when there's all these people talking about him for a job, and then that happens, and everyone's like, well, he's out now. He can't be hired. And I'm like, if everything hinged on one bad call or one bad moment, he probably wasn't a realistic option anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think the other part of this, too, is the run it back thing that you mentioned, Ryan. I think is the fair to talk about here is kind of in the end, I think the downfall / hubris of Tampa was like they got into the playoffs as a wild card last year. So I know that they won the Super Bowl, and a lot of that's because they had Tom, and they had some great wide receivers that made some plays. But it wasn't like that team was without fault or without flaws or without issues. And so to just run it back and say, like, oh, there's no place where we can get better. There's no place where we can get younger. There's no place where we can improve. There's no place where we can go get a different guy. I do think in the end that's the downfall, right? Because they could have made some upgrades in some key areas, especially when the injuries started to set in defensively. Now, granted, they got everybody back for the game against the Rams, but that was the first time they had the entire core there for an entire game the entire season. And they got away with it, but it wasn't like this was the Kansas City Chiefs of last year or this year. Like, the Chiefs made the Super Bowl and completely gutted the O-line and came back with something completely brand new and brought new weapons in, brought a Jerick McKinnon in, brought some of these other guys in. They retooled and said, we can get better. And I don't think the Bucs did that. And that's what did them in, I think, at the end of the day. They just hoped that Tom would wave a magic wand and take him across the finish line. And there were a lot of games where he did that. But he couldn't do it this time.
They did, in theory, they were thinking, full year of Antonio Brown and, a lot of stuff. And I agree, though, right? They sat on what they had. They're all getting a year older, and I just don't know, how engaged is Gronk in all this?
Yeah,
clearly not. He said he'd retire today if he had a choice, or if he was put to a decision.
Yeah, he had to make the choice. Yeah, so and I think that's part of Tom. I don't think he wants to be there again.
No, I don't think so.
I think if he plays, I don't think he's going to play there.
I agree.
That's kind of my vibe. I think he's burnt out with the circus. I think, I don't think he likes the coach. Right? Yeah. It didn't go well at the start of last year. It was more, goofiness this year. I just think if he does play, he'll go somewhere else. I don't know where that is. I don't know what makes sense. But I think if he plays, it's not in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think just listening to again, reading the tea leaves, listening to what he had to say, I just don't see that as a thing. I think he calls it a career, which is weird because we don't know an adult life without Tom Brady playing quarterback somewhere. So that's our entire high school and adult life playing out right in front of us and coming to an end. But Rams move on. Great win for them. Great win for Sean McVay. But they got to go and have a great matchup with Shanahan, and Shanahan's owned McVay the last 6 times. We'll talk about that game in a second. But first, let's talk Chiefs-Bills really quick. And save the best for last, right, Ryan? This was one of the great games. I mean, you and I were texting back and forth, and we were all texting in the chain. You were enthralled. I think your pants might not have been on during this game.
Look, Zach did hit the nail on the head a little bit. I'm more of an offensive guy. I like offense. It's fun to watch. It's fun to talk about and predict. And this game had plenty of it. Man, it was just fun. Josh Allen, I think, is going to remember this game for a long time as the game that got away. You kind of feel like he's going to have Leslie Frazier's picture on the dartboard in his garage for the next 10 years, thinking about this game. The Bills really gelled late in the season, and they started to look really, really good, and they took it to a really good Chiefs team. I really thought the Bills were going to win this game, and I was really hoping. My ideal AFC Championship game going into the playoffs was Buffalo and Cincinnati. So I was really hoping that we were going to get that game.
The game of the tortured fan bases.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm all for, as a Vikings fan, I like to cheer for teams that haven't won it before, unless they're Philadelphia.
Screw those guys. Those guys are bastards.
So I'm all in on all of those guys, and I'd love to see Buffalo win a title. I'd love to see Cincinnati win a title. I don't cheer against Kansas City other than Jackson Mahomes and
I root against Kansas City because I hate Jackson Mahomes. Can't stand him.
And what's her name?
His stupid girlfriend or wife. Yeah, get out on both of those two. They suck.
They irritate both of them. Irritate me, but I can get over that because I appreciate what they put out on the field. But so I was kind of hoping. I was kind of hoping that we'd get the Buffalo win there, but hey, there's some games that you watch and the way you wanted it to go just doesn't matter in real time. And it's just a great game. And you just have to watch it and appreciate it for being the high art of football.
I don't think his pants are on now, Zach. My goodness, what a gush! What a gush!
All right, you ready for this one, Ryan?
Yeah, here we go. I'm about to get checked into oblivion.
No, I haven't seen any of it.
Wow.
No, I've seen 2 plays. I saw the 2 plays that they ran before kicking the field goal.
Yeah. The 13 seconds.
Where they had the mic on Kelsey.
Sure.
And I don't know if you've seen the clip, but like Kelsey calls the 2 plays. They run the first one, and then he goes in the huddle. He's like, "Hey, the seam will be wide open if we line up like that again." And on the first one, he tells Tyreek Hill, he's like, "Hey, just stay wide, and I'll have you." You know, it's like he called both the plays. But no, I didn't see it. I was working softball that night, and so we were watching updates on the phone. You know, and it's like, my God, like they scored again, like it's going to overtime, like holy shit. And it was entertaining watching it even in that manner. But at some point you're like, why doesn't anyone tackle someone? You know, maybe they should guard a guy. You know, I mean, shit, the guy's got 4 touchdowns for the Bills. I don't know, cover him.
This is the thing, though, right? Is he just made some great plays. He had, I don't know if you've seen the clip of him sending Mike Hughes to what should be an early retirement. But he made Mike Hughes look like a JV cornerback on that play. He stuck his left foot in the ground and he was in the end zone when he was still trying to find his jock strap on the 10-yard line. It was an incredible play, but I mean, you talk about could just tackle them, but my God, Josh Allen was making throws that I've never seen before.
No, I agree. There was some high level play there, but you know, I was like, you know, it's not against the rules to get a stop.
It's true.
You know, it's not against the rules to get the ball back. You know, and I'm sure we're going to hear all about that, right? Because we had to hear the overtime argument again.
Yep.
And how it should go, and I'm fine with the way it is.
Me too. I don't need to see it any different. It's fine.
You know, the only difference, I think I mentioned this in our group chat, like, what if you just keep playing from where you're at instead of a coin toss and starting over for the overtime period? Like, if you know, and this would have been a kickoff anyway, right? The Chiefs would have kicked off because they just scored at the buzzer.
Right.
But one, it's like, yes, it's an advantage that would have been an advantage to the Bills, but you know, the Bills didn't need to score on the final play of the game to tie it.
Right.
And if you have the ball, then you just keep the ball. Right? And it's the same down and distance and you keep going. Now, it would adjust the strategy a little bit, but you would know that going into it, right? You would have that in your mind the final 5 minutes of the game. So I think that might be the only thing I could see doing differently. Like, I don't need both teams getting the ball back and forth because my thing is like, okay, so if we say, let's say we give the Bills a chance to match it, right? And they go down and score a touchdown. What happens when Kansas City scores on their next drive?
Yeah.
Do they get another opportunity or, you know, at what point?
I've not been a fan of the matching argument. I don't know. I don't understand what the point is of that. I'm kind of with you. I like the college rules.
No, stupid. Not you. You're not stupid, but the rule is stupid.
Well,
I like college style overtime. I just like it.
What part of it do you like that's different than the matching aspect?
I like that you're starting from the same spot. It's offense versus defense, and it's you have to score to stay in it. You know, because it's not guaranteed.
I think the problem that I have is, one, it does take special teams out of the game. And then my other issue is, like, I feel like it's even more of an advantage than for the second team than it is versus being the first team in overtime. Because if you're the second team, like, you now know every play is four down territory, right? Like, I mean, that's if we said you get a chance to match, and the Chiefs go and score a touchdown, like I get that the Bills need to go score a touchdown, but they also get 4 plays on every. You know what I mean? Like they know they're going for it on 4th down. A punt is not an option. A field goal is not an option. That changes the game significantly too.
Right.
Sure.
My
So
thought.
I don't know that there's another option that is, people always want to talk about fair, but I don't.
I like your continuance plan. I think that's a great idea.
I don't know that the other ones are fair.
The only one I heard that I like, I want to keep it as is. I'm a status quo guy on this thing. But the one that I like, that at least I'm willing to listen to, is, okay, so what did the Chiefs go down and do? Did they go down in, 5 plays? Is it 5-6 plays in overtime?
I think that sounds right.
All right. So I'm going to give Buffalo 5 plays to match it. That's what I'll do. And if they can't do it in 5 plays, game's over. Because Kansas City went down and scored in 5 plays. So if you can do that, if you can go down and score in 4 plays, you win. If you can't do it, you lose. Then it's done. And then I don't got to worry about it. And other than that, the same rule should apply. Then just keep it. If not, keep it as is. Because then you don't have to play. We talk about these players are always like, oh, player safety. I want player safety. All right, you want player safety. Do you really want to play a 15-minute overtime? Do you want to play 2 overtimes? Do you want to play all night? No. Let's make this as quick as possible.
Yeah, I've heard people suggest another full 15-minute period. I don't think that's the answer. I'm with you. I like it. I'm fine with it the way it is. If I change it, my change would be just continue it. But
that would be kind of hot though if you had to match on the other side. Like if Kansas City went out and threw a 78-yard touchdown pass on the first play. All right, Buffalo, you got 1 play. Good luck. That would be kind of fun. They'd be like, all right, they got to throw a Hail Mary from the 20. Everybody, let's figure out if they can do it. I think it'd be great. That I would pay for. That would be good theater, I think. All right. Let's preview the AFC Championship games. Do you want to do some headlines first? Or do you want to go right into the championship games and preview those? Like the coaching hires.
I'm good with whatever.
All right. Let's do the championship preview, and maybe we'll close out with some of the headline stuff on the way out. So we've got Cincinnati versus Kansas City at Kansas City. This is, again, the 5th time in a row, 4th time in a row they're hosting the AFC title game. 4 times in a row. That's, it's starting to become, it's pretty good for Mahomes. Mahomes is putting a Hall of Fame resume up, and he's 27 years old. It's pretty impressive stuff, what we're seeing out of him. What do we think here? I like what Cincinnati's done this year. They've fought hard. It's been a pretty gutty battle. I don't think they're in, I don't see this game being all that close, though. I feel like this is Kansas City by a lot. Don't you think, Ryan?
I think Kansas City offense versus Cincinnati defense, I definitely agree. But I think that Cincinnati offense can keep pace against that Kansas City defense. I don't think that their back end is as strong as it's looked the last couple of weeks. And I think that they obviously can give up a lot of points to a good offense like we saw last week. And Cincinnati's definitely got a very good offense. So I think that they're the type of team that if you're Kansas City, it scares you a little bit.
I think Kansas City will win by double digits. I think it's close early, but they just I don't think they'll keep up. I think that they'll have drives that they don't finish, and the Chiefs will eventually pull away from them.
Yeah, I think if we're going to go with a quick prediction on it, I think that's probably right. I think we're about a year or 2 away from Cincinnati really being at the level where they could really get to the Super Bowl and get through a team like Kansas City. But I think they can compete, but I don't think they're there yet.
I don't think anyone expected them
No.
to be to this point.
No, we thought the Vikings. We thought it was a shitty loss when the Vikings lost to them in Week 1. Well, it still was, but now we look back and we're like, well, that was a pretty good Bengals team.
Yeah, they're solid. Don't get me wrong. They beat the Chiefs too earlier. That's the thing too. We're all talking about them like we think it's a foregone conclusion, but they did beat the Chiefs. They did, and
their rookie kicker's been rock solid. He's made a lot of big kicks for them, and They can win this game. They can win it. I just don't think they will. I think they're
I kind of agree.
I think they can win this game, but I think they'll lose it 31-17. Anybody want to throw a score out there and challenge that? Ooh.
What did you say it was?
I'm going to go 31-17 Kansas City.
I was thinking more like 35-20, but yeah, I mean we're kind of in the same.
We're in the same boat.
Yeah.
Ryan, you got one?
I'm going to go 42-31 Kansas City.
Jesus. Ryan just wants every game to be a track meet. Just a 7-hour game. Oh, goodness.
I'm not
gracious.
high on either of these defenses. I don't think that the defenses are elite.
You just said the Bengals defense was good.
I said they're good, but they're not elite. They've got guys, but they have problems stopping their run, and their back end isn't solid.
Jerick McKinnon has been a godsend for Kansas City. I mean, like as an old Viking guy, Jerick McKinnon has really been a difference maker without Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, I feel like Mahomes has a lot of trust in him, throws a lot of passes to him, and I felt like Buffalo didn't have an answer for him. And that was like the new wrinkle that Kansas City has been able to put in the last 5-6 weeks that I think has elevated them. He's going to be a factor in this game. I think it'll be interesting to see how much action he gets, but I think he's going to be the difference in this one for Kansas City. There you go, Jerick McKinnon fans. We got a Viking reference on the show.
The interesting thing too, I mean, like he went to San Francisco and got hurt, right? Like,
yeah, didn't play for 2 years.
Saw a lot in him too. So
yeah, he kind of just fell out of the consciousness of the league because he got hurt for 2 straight years, didn't play at all. So good to see him finish the season number 1. All right, so we like Kansas City to win. Let's go to the Rams-Niners. We had all those years where we couldn't get a host team to host a team playing a home game in the Super Bowl, and now we get a chance at 2 in a row as the Rams play the Niners at SoFi. But Kyle Shanahan's won 6 games in a row over McVay. Is it 7, Zach?
I don't think so. I think he figures it out this time. I mean, I felt like they were in control of the first one.
They were. They gave up a 17-point lead. First time McVay ever lost a halftime lead.
McVay's slapping everyone on the back in the end zone, and the next thing you know, he's losing. So I think they're better. Yeah. Jimmy G is not what you need at quarterback. And don't get me wrong, like I wanted him to be good. I thought when he got traded it would be good. It hasn't been. He's still probably going to start somewhere next year.
Yeah.
And he's, but he's protected in what they're doing. And I don't blame San Francisco. Like they're doing what they have to do to win games. I just don't think he gives them enough in this one.
Kind of agree on that one. Ryan?
I think this game's going to be the Debo show. I think he's going to go off this game. I think it's going to be one of those kind of historic playoff games where a guy, you look back 20 years from now and he's just got we're talking about his career, and this game is like 6 or 7 of the highlights of the 20 that we're watching. And we're going to remember where we were on 3 or 4 of the plays. It's going to be ridiculous. He's going to stunt all over this Rams team.
Wow.
I think the Niners win.
That's a bold statement.
That is a bold statement. Look, the Niners have found something with Debo. Like, he's incredible. Like, he's the one player that legitimately scares the shit out of me every time he touches the ball for San Francisco. The rest of the guys don't really. Like, they got a good running game. And, I mean, Brandon Ayuk, Kittle's really good. Kittle's awesome, but Debo Samuel legitimately scares me. Like, if I was an opposing person, if I was a Rams fan, I'd be legitimately scared of Debo Samuel whenever he touches the ball. Like, I'd be like, God damn it, he's going to go for 10 yards, and I can't do anything about it. It stinks. But one thing I'll give the Rams and McVay, they have gotten something out of Odell Beckham. Cooper Kupp is out of this world. He's playing on another planet right now. They obviously the Cam Akers 4 fumble thing, that's scary. But prior to that, the Cam Akers Sony Michel 2-person combo is pretty solid. I think you kind of like that. And in the end, Stafford's better than Goff. So, Stafford was the right move.
I think we're going to talk a lot about that. I really do think we're going to talk a lot about Debo Samuel after this game. We are. But the story should be that Niners defense, I think, is they're finding a little bit of an identity on pass rush. I think their linebackers are beginning to step up. They're finding a little bit of help on the back end for kind of a weaker cornerback group, I think. And they're getting better, and that's a good thing. They're just finding ways to make it work. And those teams can be scary when they are playing familiar teams like LA.
So what do you got, Ryan? Who you said Niners win? What's the score?
Me 38-21.
Wow, 38? They're gonna get 38 points on the Rams? Good God! All right, Zach, who do you got?
I've got the Rams 28-12.
I've got the Rams in a tight game. I got them winning 24-17. 24-17. It should be a very interesting game to watch, but I think that will be how it'll play out. I just think that the Rams they're playing better. They have found something that really works. And I also want the Niners to lose so that DeMeco Ryans can become the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes, please.
So if the Niners win, that's not going to happen because that's 3 more weeks. He's not going to be available. So
let's talk about hiring.
You could hire him because you interviewed him.
Yeah.
But you couldn't bring him in for a first interview if he was going to the Super Bowl.
It's a great point. Some hiring started to come down, and Zach wants to talk hiring. So we'll close the podcast here. We'll take about 10 minutes or so here and just kind of talk through some of the headlines. We've been waiting for some of these guys some of these dominoes to fall, and a couple of them fell. Starting today, obviously, first the GM position started to fall. Ryan Poles goes to Chicago. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah comes to Minnesota. And they quickly solve the Chicago coaching situation. They hire Matt Eberflus. Nathaniel Hackett goes to Denver, which, of course, has everybody up in arms because Eric Bieniemy once again gets passed over for a job. And, maybe we're getting to a point where maybe Eric Bieniemy is not a good interviewer. Like, maybe that's what we're learning.
Well, did you hear what he said in his interview with Denver?
I don't know what he said. What?
Apparently he referred to John Elway as the GM, which he is definitely not.
George Payton, I think, would take offense to that.
Yeah, so would John Elway. You demoted him a couple of ranks. What's telling to me is that Ryan Poles didn't ask to interview him when he got the job in Chicago. So if your own guys aren't willing to go to bat for you, what does that say about you as a coach? Are you ready to be a head coach in that situation?
I don't think we'll ever see him have it at this point.
No, I don't think so either.
So, the Hackett stuff is interesting, right? We talked about the Green Bay connection. I think the biggest thing with the Hackett hiring is it sounds like he's bringing the O-line coach with him.
Oh, really?
Right, and it sounds like he'll be the offensive coordinator. Hackett will call the plays still, but and that's a huge get, right? I think that's part of this too. Who you hire with you is a big thing.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Who else can you get to teach besides just you?
Right.
So I think that's a good hire for Denver, but again, like they need a quarterback to kind of get them over the hump.
Yeah, they got a good talented team. I think that was a pretty attractive job for Hackett to get. That's a pretty good get for a first job. I mean, that's already a 500 team with a lot of talent, but you got to get the quarterback situation right. I know that the Hackett hire gets everybody excited because they think, well, that's a green light for Aaron Rodgers, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I mean, at least that's a fan base pleaser to hire a guy like Nathaniel Hackett, probably.
Ryan, where do you think the Vikings are headed?
Yeah, with this hire, where do they go?
Well, I think that Dan Quinn says that he's staying with the Cowboys, so he's saying I'm not taking any jobs this year. Which crosses him off the list. I mean, I don't think that Kellen Moore is a real serious candidate. I know they interviewed him, but I don't think he's serious. I think that you look at who the new GM is familiar with. I know that he likes DeMeco Ryans. That's been brought up a lot. He was familiar with Nathaniel Hackett, but he's in Denver now. And then Kevin O'Connell, who is we'll call him the offensive coordinator in LA, but he doesn't call any plays. So I'm hard pressed to say that you're going to go get a guy who made the jump from a quarterbacks coach to an offensive coordinator, but isn't calling plays or really leading a group in that on that team, as opposed to somebody like DeMeco Ryans, who you can buy low on and potentially do well with. The other thing that DeMeco Ryans potentially brings you, in my mind, is you can poach that OC from San Francisco and let him call plays in Minnesota.
I think it's interesting, like you talked about calling plays and stuff, but Hackett didn't call plays in Green Bay. Now, he does have a pretty good endorsement from Aaron Rodgers, who's talked about how well he commands the room and how good of a teacher he is, but he's not calling plays either.
But he did call plays in Jacksonville.
That's true. That is
and
true.
He has experience doing that. And the other thing is that Jacksonville offense, when he was there, wasn't terrible. They moved the ball quite a bit. That was the year that they went to the AFC title game. They looked pretty good. And there was a lot of thought that he should be the next head coach down there when they were looking for a head coach last year. But it's a good hire for Denver, and I'm glad that he's there. He was one of the top 3 guys on my list. I wanted him in Minnesota, but I think for me, a lot of guys are going to say they want the offensive minded guy. I'm not big on Kevin O'Connell yet. I don't think that he has
that name does nothing for me.
I don't think that I like a lot of the stuff that he's done. That Rams offense, if you're going to give him credit, you have to give him some responsibility too. That Rams offense has been pretty inconsistent. When I look at DeMeco Ryans and the Niners defense, I see a unit that was banged up for a good chunk of the year and still performed and shut down 2 of the better offenses in the NFL so far in the postseason. So I'm feeling pretty good about that hire if they decide to go that way, but I'm going to trust the judgment, but he's my pick. I really want DeMeco Ryans.
All right, I want to do an exercise because I jotted down here, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 nuggets about different potential head coaches.
Sure.
And I just want to get your opinion. I'm not going to tell you who they are.
All right.
But I'm going to tell you, how you tell me how much this does for you.
I like this. This is fun.
All right. So this first guy has been the assistant head coach on a team that won a Super Bowl.
Okay.
That do anything for you, or
that does something for me? I mean, it does. I mean, I like being teams that have success. I want to have some of that as part of the resume. Sure.
I would also want to know what level of responsibility they had. It's you're an assistant head coach. What does that mean? And then I know that varies from organization to organization.
Okay, that's fair. How about this guy here has previous head coaching experience? He had made the playoffs 4 out of 7 years.
Yeah, that I know who you're talking about, and that was my next. I did have a question, but yes, I'm interested in that.
I think that if you're looking for a non-traditional approach, I don't want somebody that's been in the spot before.
Okay. You don't want a guy who's been a head coach at all.
I think that you're looking for new blood. I don't think so. I don't want someone who's been a head coach before.
Interesting.
All right. Well, that scratches off my next guy. He's actually been to a Super Bowl, but he lost. So I'll check that off. How about what?
Is that Harbaugh?
I'll tell you at the end. Okay. This guy has coached in the Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator.
Okay. I'm interested.
That might do something for you.
Yep, I'm interested.
All right, and my last guy also was a head coach with a record of 60-36. He did have one more bad year that I threw out because of his quarterback was gone and it wasn't really an indication of.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in that too. That's
got to be Jim Caldwell.
So they're all Jim Caldwell.
Okay.
Those are all. That's Jim Caldwell's resume, and I think the reality is right. Like I know that a lot of people have dismissed him out of hand, but I think that he kind of gets a bum rap a little bit. And
yeah,
I get the age stuff and I get the wanting new blood stuff, but I think that there were a lot of Bears fans that were ticked off he was even on the list. I don't think he's a terrible hire.
No, he wouldn't be a bad coach.
I honestly, I was really worried they were going to take him in Chicago because we know what he can do with a young quarterback. If there's a GM that can pull together a decent roster around him, I was really worried we were going to see the Bears turn into a really, really good team under him.
Yeah, and just that Super Bowl year as the old coordinator, he had Flacco.
Yeah.
Right? He made Flacco a lot of money.
Yeah, he did.
As the old coordinator. No, I think the interesting thing with Minnesota, and this will kind of transition into the GM talk here, is right. They're going. New age isn't the right word, but they're taking some chances at GM, right?
Right.
We're doing something different, maybe a little bit outside the box.
Yep, I don't have a problem with that. Yep, I agree with you.
The word is they're calling Philadelphia and for assistant GM, and they're it sounds like they're going to hire a woman to be their assistant GM, right? Like
Caroline Raish, yeah.
Caroline Raish has got the inside track on that, so that's a little bit outside the box.
Yep.
You want to go outside the box again with your head coach? Like I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of moving unknowns here.
See,
I think.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say I think that's what you're after, right? How many years, how many decades have the Vikings rolled out the traditional choice? How many times have they taken the safe route with the guy who came up in scouting as the GM and the coach who's been doing this forever? And it might get you there a couple of times, but it's not done it. So you roll the dice, you take the chance, and you stick with it, and you let people learn on the job and understand that there might be some growing pains.
Yeah, I know, I get that. I think maybe if I'm going to throw the dice, right? The more times I throw the dice at the casino, the more times the house edge takes advantage.
My question would be to you
I'm
both.
trying to hit three big ones in a row. I don't know. I'm not saying we don't know, right? That's the reality. Like we don't know what these guys have done and what they're doing. I just think the first question they should have asked when he came in, and before they hired him is, would you rather have a 4th round pick or 3 extra 7th round picks? And if he can answer that one the right way, then he's a Viking.
Let me ask you this though. I gotta throw this out, because the guy that kind of now makes sense with this hire, if it's not going to be a young guy like a D'Amico Ryans or somebody like Raheem Morris or whatever, this is where a Doug Peterson's kind of interesting. Because he's sort of analytical. If Adolfo Menso plays the kind of the analytics and plays the numbers and plays the stats, and he's kind of aggressive like that, well, that feels like Doug Peterson. But at the same time, Doug Peterson also feels like kind of a big personality, a guy who's kind of been there and done that. And is that something that the GM wants? I don't know. That was my thought.
I feel like he's fallen completely off the radar on all these rumors of who's going where.
It does feel that way a little bit. I don't know.
Right? Does he feel like he's the leading candidate anywhere right now, Ryan?
No, he doesn't. But
that's weird.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think if you're looking for an alternative to a D'Amico Ryans, maybe an offensive alternative, but you still want to kind of stay in the football realm of guys who know football, you could try and poach someone like Byron Leftwich from the jaws of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who seem to be fumbling the bag a little bit.
That seems to be that. I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan, because I read something today that basically he's the guy, but Leftwich is like, yeah, I'll be here. Just make sure Trent Baalke's not here.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
Really weird.
Yeah, that's interesting. That he's basically going to be the head coach, and okay, I'll be the head coach, just not with that GM. Mm-hmm. Bring in Adrian Wilson from Arizona. If that's true. Wow, that is a Leftwich swinging a big hammer.
Yeah, and I don't mind it. Yeah, I mean it's you can walk away from a pretty good job in Tampa, where you're going to get the chance to hope you maybe be the next head coach there when Arians retires. You'll be one of the leading candidates for that job, or you can go to a super dysfunctional organization that just fired a head coach this year that was a complete train wreck. And that has been falling all over itself since 1995.
Well, it goes back to, do you like the quarterback?
Yeah.
Right. If he likes Trevor Lawrence and thinks he can do things there, then that's the job to take.
Yep.
Right.
And maybe we talked about Doug Peterson kind of falling off. Maybe he reemerges after a couple more of these jobs fill.
See, I think he's quiet right now because I think teams want him to be quiet. I think he's under the radar on purpose. We always get some of these hires that sort of sneak up on people. And I think that's kind of what this feels like. I feel like there are teams that are sitting out there going let's just, let's not play our hand here. But Like, if you're a team like New
you want
Orleans,
him, if you want him, like, why just go get him?
yeah, I mean, I just think, like, if you're a team like New Orleans, why wouldn't you want a guy like Doug Peterson now that Sean Payton's out? You know, and if you're a team like Minnesota, why wouldn't you want an offensive guy like Doug Peterson? It just doesn't make sense to me that he would be off of people's radar, which tells me he's got a gig. There's a gig there for him. I feel like he's going to get hired.
I did see that with Mike McDaniel, he's the OC at San Francisco, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that part of his desire is he is not interested in going somewhere where pot is not legal.
He does seem like one of those dudes.
I literally saw that.
I want to be friends with this man.
He did the whole Mike Jones thing in the press conference, that rap song. He's like, who? Mike Jones? He's doing all weird stuff in the offensive coordinator press conference with the interview, and I'm like, who is this guy? Here's what
I'll say. If you want to get marijuana legalization passed in Minnesota, just tell them that the Vikings' success depends on it. We can go get a rock star young OC, and
but then Ryan will be just a mess on our podcast all the time, just baked out of his mind every time we do this.
I have some discipline here. I
did see they're talking about it again.
Yeah, Walls wants it. Walls wants it. We don't have to get into politics, but
get the sports book.
Get me a casino.
Get me a sports book.
Give me a casino. Give me the weed dispensary. Let me go sit in there, baked out of my mind, just spending money I don't have.
You can't. They're not going to give you that much freedom at once.
No, no. Wait a minute now. Not without your mask, at least, and your vaccine card. Maybe we'll do it then. Only then.
I moved to Illinois.
Just go to Iowa where you can gamble right now. We can drive 2 hours and go gamble.
Gambling is nothing for me. I want the wheat. Yeah,
you're 3 hours to Iowa.
Yeah, 2.5. You can do it fast. You got to step on it. Not driving like a grandma like you, but no.
I would assume that by the time we do this show next week, we'll have the majority of the jobs filled.
Yeah.
I hope so, because we will be previewing the Super Bowl next week. We will recap the AFC and the NFC championship games. We'll set the table for the offseason. Then we'll take a week off and let the Super Bowl play itself out. And then we will do the season finale podcast after the Super Bowl. Oh my goodness. And it'll be exciting stuff. And then we won't be around each other much until the draft. It'll be crazy. We'll have to work in some special pods for that stuff. So, hey guys, great job this week. Thanks for coming and chatting with me as I nurse the Omicron. Well done.
Yeah, get well soon. We need you on the speech team there. We got a lot going on. And not having the head coach around is not conducive to a good environment.
Although I'm sure it was great today. I'm sure you guys did well without me. You guys are handling the ship. I knew you would. And you're doing great. A bunch of kids
didn't show up, but it's going great.
So is it like, Ryan, are you like the acting head coach? Is this like because we always joke at football, like our head coach caught it 2 years ago or 2 seasons ago, right? A year and a half. And so the guy who subbed in for him, we won, and he has since retired from. So he's 1-0 as a head coach. We call him the winningest head coach of all time, just to get the other coach going.
Yeah, I'm not in charge of titles. I'm the assistant coach. I'm gonna leave that to the head coach. If the head coach wants to call me the acting head coach in those situations, that's what I'll be. But I'm gonna dutifully serve my role as the PA coach of the Anoka speech team.
Assistant head coach or assistant to the head coach?
Well, that's up to him to decide. Again, I don't discuss title. I'm not sitting here debating title.
The money's the same. Podcast. It doesn't matter if I call him assistant to. The money's the same no matter what.
You can call me dickhead for all you want. I'm going to coach that speech team
and get that money.
That's right.
Oh, it's working out great. I can't wait to get back. I will be hopefully back full strength next week, and we'll hear all about it, guys. You're the best. Thanks so much. And if you want to listen to more episodes in the podcast, there's tons in the archive. So head on back. You can listen back to our entire football season pods. We've made a lot of outlandish statements on this podcast over the past 20 weeks or so. So please take a listen to that. Plus, the movie pod will be making its return soon, I promise. People want to hear Peak Cinema. We will be doing it. It will happen soon, maybe over this quarantine. We'll find out. But we got a lot of stuff happening on the pod. We appreciate you. Find us Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast. TimPodcast1@yahoo.com is where my email is. And drop me a line. And subscribe and share. I would be grateful and appreciative. Thank you so much. So, until next time, for Ryan, for Zach, this is Tim saying keep your head up, and we'll see you.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.